Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome to the Christopher Marc Show. So today, I have the privilege of being in front of a caring, loving, spiritually inclined individual. Simone, can you tell everybody your full name and what do you do?
Hi, everybody. My name is Simone Shabazz. I am a vocalist, singer, songwriter, podcast host, author, and inspirational speaker.
It's a lot, right? It's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So, can you, so let me ask you a question. What is it that got you started with what you're doing? What started your journey with all of this?
Well, I made a decision, and this decision was to do something different. I had hit a brick wall, and I needed to know why I was there. And that meant that I had to be accountable. And when I began to do some introspective work, my life changed. And having gained all of that knowledge, it became my passion to give back to women, to inspire women to see their worth.
Do you find that, how do people respond to you? Do they respond in a positive way to your suggestions, the information that you have to give them?
Oh, absolutely. I think that my being transparent does help people, to see themselves. Because oftentimes we might give suggestions, but are we willing to, tell our story?
Exactly.
Be candid with, how we came to the place that, we are in. And I think that does help to get the message across. My willing to be transparent on, where I've been and how my choices affected my life.
Do you find that, I guess, in the people that you've helped, how many of them did you see yourself in?
Wow. Yeah, so when I see the younger women, my heart bleeds because I remember being there. I remember looking for love in all the wrong places. I remember how my abandonment issues affected the choices that I made, throughout this journey. And so whenever I see a young woman, especially in church, the younger women, I hug on them and tell them how beautiful they are. Because I think that we all want to be loved, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all want to be seen, right? And I think that, so being able to speak into someone's life, tell them that they're good, no matter where we are, you're still good, you're still loved, you're still beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. What is when you say with the people that you're helping, what is your ultimate mission?
The ultimate mission of Catch the Vision Love, which is my business, I want to Catch the Vision Love to go global, actually.
Okay.
I don't want it to just be, a few women that I touch, I'd like for it to go global. I'd like to see women take ownership of their value. And that should be a global movement.
Yeah, it's I think that's I think for women today, it's a difficult thing because it's they don't really have someone to help guide them, and because a lot of times people are just learning from trial and error, and they're okay, I fell in love with this person, I fell in love with that person, and I feel this connection, and so they're just they're kind of going with the flow, but then there's no, as you kind of go through life, you start to realize the consequences of things, and how you have to deal with things differently. And so I think that's the beauty of what you're doing. It's like it's helping them to avoid those pitfalls. So let me ask you this: what would you say is the common what was a common pitfall that you find that most people have gone through when you deal with people or help them?
I think that women are looking for external, for the love that God has already given them.
Right.
And that is what I had to learn. That even if they're not in a relationship or a marriage, you're still good. You're created in love. God loves you unconditionally, and you set the standard. And once you understand that you set the standard, once you understand your value, then you're able to make better choices. And it's all about a choice. Because what happens if you get into a dysfunctional relationship and you don't get the love that you deserve? What's going to happen then? You fall apart.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like, but most people do. Most people do.
Because I think that you go in with unrealistic expectations. The very thing that you want, you have to become.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going in thinking that he's going to define you, the likelihood of that is unlikely because you're already defined. You just have to believe that.
How many people do you think had, I guess, or developed a relationship with God in order, like when you kind of explain this to them, saying, hey, this is what you really need to develop. How many of people that you come across that was difficult for them to really like say, okay, you know what, like I understand God, I know him, but it's like, what do you mean by a relationship? How many of people have actually ran into that was dealing with that?
I think it's like a light bulb that goes off when I say, well, first of all, you have to become the very thing that you deserve, that you want. You have to understand that you are the standard. And I think that typically, you know, we, like I said, look for external means to solidify us instead of really understanding that you're take ownership of who you actually are. And I think that once I began to tell them that a light bulb kind of goes off. Because I remember, you know, being in a place where God said, everything that you've been looking for already belongs to you. Mm-hmm. And when he said that to me, I was like, wow, I took like a deep breath because it was like, oh my gosh, the place that I was in, it was like an ever ready battery that was nonstop, you know. And when God said that to me, I was like, wow, you're right. Like, I'm good. And when I was able to really embrace that and actually live that out, that's when my life changed.
What is it that, I guess, when you're making these transformations, like with people and helping them,
yeah,
like what is it, how do you connect with them? Like, do you know what I mean? Like what point in your life where you were like, okay, listen, I've been there and let me explain this story that will help you to understand that I've been there. What story do you usually tell people?
I usually do talk about, you know, where I have been relationally, the broken relationships, looking for love in all the wrong places. I'm usually quite transparent about that.
Okay.
I don't have a problem at all. And once you're able to share who you really are, I think that draws people. Because a lot of times people are superficial, you know, they're not really ready to talk about where they have been, you know, because that means that I am vulnerable. And that means that I have to be accountable. And most of us are not willing to be accountable. You know, we want to put it off on someone else. So I was at a place where I had to, like I said, do some introspective work and be accountable for the choices that I once made.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you find people to help now? Like, how do you go about that? Like, is it usually at your church? Is it like, or is it
Well,
through?
my podcast, Catch the Vision, Love the Podcast.
Okay.
My books. Yeah. And so I find that people are quite receptive to the podcast. It's very inspirational. They're usually short messages, and they are all inspirational. Most
Wow.
of them,
Wow.
like little nuggets, to help you along the way. To inspire you to realize your worth, realize that you're already loved, realize that you're beautiful.
Do you find that, have you ever done like a long form like podcast where it was like more in
I'd
depth?
like to transition into that at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a it's a process, I will say.
Yeah.
Because you have to. It's almost like you get ready to give this speech, and then so you have to kind of break it down, almost like taking like multiple events and then putting it into one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it works. But it's a process. I did it before. It's like, and I'm like, yeah, I like short and sweet is my bag. I don't mind doing long form, but if need be. But I like short and sweet because I feel like people can receive it more. They can process things a little bit better. Yeah.
Pardon me. I agree. I like to just get to the point, give them, a nugget. And I find that they're very receptive. For instance, my recent podcast that I released on Monday is entitled Lovely Day. And I'm telling the listener, have a lovely day, beautiful. What does a lovely day look like for you?
Mm-hmm.
It might be a good conversation, one of your favorite songs, a special moment with God. And I find that I have found with this most recent podcast episode that they are really, really very receptive to that. So that also makes me happy as well, knowing that, I'm getting feedback, thank you, Simone, for this nugget, thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for, touching lives. One listener said she felt like she was actually taking a Calgon bath, listening to the podcast, and my response was, "Wow, this means more than you even know."
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, I used to I didn't think that I was, like good at this, and then I just started doing it over again, and then I realized people started responding to it, and I'm like, okay, so this really works. Like, people actually like it. And so I think that's the thing. It's like you just got to put yourself out there and just try it. But I think it's beautiful what you do.
I'm so grateful for that. I just think that we're all going through, and if you haven't, keep living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Keep living. But we need to know that we're all in this together, and we need to come together more.
Yeah.
And it's not about, I find that Black women have a tendency to trash, the men and so on and so forth, especially coming out of perhaps a difficult relationship. And I don't think that that's the remedy.
It happens.
But that's not the remedy. That's not the remedy. Like I said, you can't expect that that he's going to be faithful to you when you don't know how to be faithful to yourself. I have a book entitled Forever Love, and the first chapter of the book is Sex is Not Love.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want him to be faithful, you have to be faithful to yourself. You know, the Bible says, thou shalt not commit adultery. So if you want a faithful man, you don't want a person that's a cheater, don't cheat on yourself.
That's powerful. That's so powerful, because a lot of times people assume that, especially for women, like when they get into a relationship with a dude, they're like, okay, how can I get him to, be with me? And so the first thought is, okay, well, let's sleep together.
Wow.
And they feel like, this is going to make him want to stay.
No.
And a lot of times, like, what people don't realize is, like, it's how you value yourself, like
Right.
how you see, how this person sees himself, how she sees herself, and that's really what's going to allow for it to work. Because if you want a moment, you'll get a moment. That's really what it is. If you want a future, you will carve out a future, and you'll plan beyond that. And so I think a lot of times people just, it's just a struggle, because with how society is and how you see online, like, everyone is promoting that constantly. And
Right,
saying,
and that should be a red flag for you, because
Yeah.
everybody is doing it and what have you. But when you hear the stories, it obviously is not working.
Right.
It's obviously not working. So I think that, like you said, you need to plan for a future. And once again, going back to what I said in regard to, you set the standard. If this is what you want a lasting relationship. I don't care who you are. You can't outdo God. He's the one who created it to begin with, right?
Right.
Yeah. So why don't you do it right for a change? And let's see what happens.
That's the thing. It's
Let's see what happens.
it's
You're talking to someone who has been celibate for over 7 years.
right.
But I've learned so much about myself, resiliency and my self-worth, and realizing that I'm not cheap and I can't be bought.
Yeah, because some people, they're looking for, they might see a person and say, okay, I want to be with this person, and how do I maintain this connection, right? Because you might be into the person might not be into you. There's always these reasons behind why people do it. And you're right, like, once you start to actually take that time and love yourself, like,
Yeah.
in a holistic way, it's like you start to see that, okay, I'm giving away my energy, and it's not an exchange. It's
Well,
more
not
so
just your energy, it's your soul.
yeah.
I hear people say, you're having soul ties when you're sleeping with one person after the other. And there are consequences. And so I just think, more importantly, that once again, you understand your value, your worth, and own it.
Right.
I want to see women own their value.
What would you say is in your books that you've written and in things you've talked about, what was the common thing women were looking for? Like, if they were looking for a certain type of man, what type of man was the one they were always ideally looking for?
Well, I think that ultimately a God-fearing man and actually lives it.
Right.
You can certainly have connections with those who are spiritual, those who go to church, those who believe in God, but is he actually living it?
Mm-hmm.
That's different.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the common goal is to be successful at this, right?
Yeah.
So how about we follow the script? How about we follow the manufacturer?
Yeah, I think that part is where it's like people are realizing that they're that they've gone off script. You know what I mean? Kind of like what you're saying. It's like
I mean, after you've done it so many times, right? And you're
yeah,
still in the same place, right? So, like what's next? You know?
yeah,
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 for me, like I said, I had hit a brick wall, in my marriage. I had remarried my husband, and the same set of circumstances that caused the demise of the first marriage was staring me in the face all over again. And that's when I asked God, like, okay, so why am I here? Like,
right.
what is it that you need me to do that's different? And I can hear him say, I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. So now let's get to work. So like I said, it took me to, really be accountable for my choices and lay the groundwork moving forward. Yeah.
Wow, wow. Yeah, because it's
And
not.
that didn't mean because in times past when he was out doing whatever it is that he was doing, so I was like, okay, well, one monkey don't stop no show. So, that never works. Because when you find yourself in a place, there's something that God wants to do differently in your life. Yes, you just have to get the lesson. And if you don't get the lesson, you'll keep repeating it if you still have breath in your body.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to do that anymore. Yeah, I didn't want to do that anymore. I couldn't repeat the process. It was too exhausting. Yeah.
You can't because if you after a while you have to love yourself. Like you have to stand up for you because people want what they want. That's just what it is. But it's more so like, how do you feel about you? How do you love you?
And what does that really look like, though? You loving you. What does that look like?
I think it looks like
you. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think it looks like the thing of you taking the time of you understanding your relationship with God, understanding you. Because the thing about loving yourself, most people feel like, okay, well, if I love myself, cool. But then now I want to get into a relationship. Mm-hmm. I need to become what I'm asking for. I need to attract it. Right? And so sometimes like you're seeing what you want, you go after it. That's the thought process. But sometimes with things in life, things will naturally happen. But the problem is that people struggle with that. They go back and forth within themselves because they want to control the outcome. And so, at least this is what I find in my experiences, not only, personally, but also just with working with people. It's like, you have to allow things to happen.
Go back to what they're comfortable with. I think that people go back to what they know, while God is trying to reconstruct that thinking, tear down that belief system. At least for me, I knew that is what He was doing in me, creating a new mindset.
Because everyone goes back to what they're familiar with. I don't know how many times I've done it. I've been guilty of it. Like you have a person
that's the danger. Because you find yourself like it's a loop. And you find yourself in the same set of circumstances. So you really, once you make a decision, you have to stick to it. You have to stay the course, no matter how difficult it may be. And it might be that you're lonely for a little while. It might be that you're alone for a little while, but you're really not alone because you're taking time to learn yourself. And more importantly, when you do get into another relationship, that hopefully it'll be a holistic relationship. Hopefully it'll be one that a person will value you and see you.
Yeah.
Outside of sex.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you people are guilty of it. I think that's the thing where it's like if you're trying to, it's more so about the lesson you learn from each other. And is there a constant exchange of learning? If I can't learn from you and you can't learn from me, then there's no point, you know? And this is at a place where it's like, okay, we've kind of hit this fork in the road. Mm-hmm. And at a certain point, you have to accept that it's okay. It's okay, because it's a journey. We're on a journey in life. And everything that we go through in life is all experiences, whether that's through love, intimacy, whatever. And so you have to keep that in mind. Like, the things that will stay with you will also teach you. And they'll teach you and to grow and evolve, or to even stay who you're meant to be. Because sometimes you might be with a person who you think you need to be with, and they'll change you. You never expected it to happen. You were like, this is who I am, da 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 da. No one will change me. Trust me. You'll meet somebody, they change you, and you'll realize that, okay, you know what? I'm losing myself. I need to go back to the source.
Yeah, that's the thing, because once again, going back to what I said in terms of setting the standard and staying the course, and refrain from going back to what you know. So you don't want to compromise. You know, you don't want to compromise. If this is who you say you are, this is what you're aspiring to be, or who you are aspiring to be, then do it. You know, don't compromise. Don't sell yourself short. Why would you? Why would you? Yeah. What's the payoff? Because you did that already, right?
Yeah.
So what's the payoff? And if you're in the same place all over again because you sold yourself short, so why would you? And why should you? Yeah. That's the question.
So my next question to you, Simone, is if someone was walking this path, right, of, you know, going from where you were and then to where you are now, what would you tell them to help them to stay motivated?
First of all, stay true to who God has called and created you to be. Own your worth. Not just embrace it, own it, and live it. And when the trials come, because they will, when the tests come, stay the course. Stay the course. Because I think that there are men who are really looking for quality women. And you don't want to be like everybody else. You want to be the woman that a man will go, hey, there's something different about her. Let me get to know her a little bit better. And like I said, the test will come, but stay true to who God has called you to be, created you to be, and own your value, own your worth, and live it. And don't compromise. Don't compromise.
Oh, man. So, last question, Simone. How can people find you? Like, I know people, if they want to listen to your podcast, read your books, how can they find all the beautiful stuff that you're doing and helping people with?
Yeah, so once again, I'm CEO, owner, and operator of Catch the Vision Love, and you can find me at catchthevisionlove.com.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, thank you for
taking
the time to do this and to just share like your journey and your wisdom, you know, because I think that people need to hear it. And they need to feel like they're not alone for listening to their inner voice. The part of them that understands, like, this doesn't feel right, you know? Yeah. And so it's beautiful that you're able to do what you do. So I appreciate you for what you do.
I appreciate you for having me, and God bless you and the listener as well.
Cool. It was a pleasure. Guys, I hope you enjoy this. Hope you get the wisdom from everything that we just discussed here. And I will see you guys in the next segment. Peace.